Hello and welcome to DIY Ideas. Today we're continuing our patchwork journey. So today I would like to show you what you can do out of patchwork or in patchwork style out of triangle pieces. So here is just an example of what you can do. So let's get started. So here is everything we're gonna need for today for our patchwork project. As always, some fabric scissors and some paper scissors, measuring tape, pins, then a ruler here or a hand gauge, fabric chalk or a fabric pen that is washable later. Then we're gonna need our patterns. So I have here just regular paper that I used, and you can see here the square that I did. The size is up to you. Then thread, of course, that matches your fabric. And then we come to the last but not least, fabric. So you can see here very different fabric pieces that I have, and this is to show you that you can use pretty much anything you already have at home. Here you can see some denim fabric. Here you can see some old men's shirts that I want to upcycle, and some other fabric types as well. So this is absolutely up to you what you would like to use. And optionally, you can also do a different fabric on the back of your original fabric to make it even cooler. So patchwork projects are pretty easy because you can use any type of fabric that you'd like for them. So something that is not too stretchy is what I recommend for beginners, just because it's going to be easier to work with. But if you choose something that is stretchy, just make sure that it kind of has a similar stretchiness, I guess, to the other fabrics that you're going to use in your project. So just make sure that they are similar, but you can choose different styles, different colors, definitely different types of fabric as well. So just choose whatever you like and prefer, and we can get started. So this is what we're gonna work with, and you can see here the squares that I have. So I wanted to show you how to do it with a ruler and without, in case you don't have one and would still like to work with such projects. So you see here that I have the little paper cutouts that are just here for my patterns, or as my patterns. So we are working with triangles, as the title says, but you can see here a square that has one diagonal line, and this is how we're gonna get the triangles at the end. So you can see here the two types of fabric that I'm using, so that's gonna be our basis. So we're gonna cut out some triangles that we're later gonna connect into squares. So don't wonder, that's why we are working with both triangles and squares. So here is the longest side of the triangle, and that's what we need. So of course we need a little bit more than that around the edges for the stitches that we're gonna do. So just make sure that you always have a little bit more than what you're planning your triangle to be in the end. So 1.5 to maybe even 2 centimeters more is better here, because you can easily get rid of more, but if you're missing a little bit of fabric or a little bit of length, it might get really, really tricky to work with. So do a little bit more if you're unsure how it's gonna turn out. So we're not gonna cut out the triangles individually, but we're gonna cut out the squares here. It's gonna be a lot easier that way, just to have a square and then do one diagonal cut like this line here. And we're gonna do the same, of course, with both types of fabric. So this blue one that is kind of like a tiny checkerboard, I guess, is what we're gonna start with. And if you have a pattern like I do, then you just need to make sure if you want it kind of straight on the box or on the square, or if you'd like it purposefully to be kind of not aligned with the edges. So that's completely up to you, and especially important if you have something that has squares. You can see tiny squares on here, the blue and the black ones. So I do want them to align, and this is why I'm taking special care that the lines are aligned, and then I'm gonna mark. So now this is going to be my pattern from this point on, and I'm just going to transfer it onto the rest of the fabric and cut exact same squares out of that. Then when we're done with that, we're going to cut out the middle line. And now I have 2 of each, as you can see here. So what we're going to do next is turn them into triangles. So for that, we're going to take a hand gauge, or you can use a regular ruler as well, and connect either one of the 2 corners that are diagonal from one another. It doesn't matter if it's top and bottom, or the ones on the left and right. And then what we're going to do is pull a line or mark in any way that we like, so with a marker or with a fabric chalk, and then we can cut it out exactly where we pulled the line to get our triangles. And you can see here that I have my triangles now. I kind of try to make an order that I would like to get in the end. So I'm using one of the blue and then one of the red ones. And then what we're gonna do is put them pretty side on pretty side, so facing away from you. We're gonna align them really nicely. We're gonna pin, of course, and then we're gonna do a stitch across the edge here. And just make sure that the distance away from the edge is the same on all pieces. So yeah, just a regular straight stitch is all that we're gonna need. And you can also do an additional seaming stitch or a zigzag stitch if you'd like. So now that we have our triangles back into the square shape, we can use all 4 of these and just figure out how we would like them to look in the end. So here you have all the freedom to do whatever you like. It can be something like this, or if you turn them around, then you can have kind of a square in a blue square in red, or you can just do it randomly. So that's completely up to you and what you like and find visually appealing. You can do more pieces, of course, then just keep aligning the pieces as you'd like and keep stitching them up. So that's going to be the next step. You see here that we have 4 separate squares, and now what we're going to do, if you have more, of course, we're going to start with just 1 row. So I'm going to show you just here as an example. We're aligning these 2, so pretty side on pretty side again, then a stitch right here, and then you can also additionally do the zigzag stitch or the seaming stitch. And then we're going to have something like this in the end on the top row, same thing on the bottom row, and then we connect those two. When we do this, it's really important to make sure that the existing stitches are aligned perfectly so that we get a really neat result in the end. So that should be your pointer if you're doing everything right. And then we're going to do the stitches, so make sure that everything is where it should be, and then we'll do a regular straight stitch on this side right here. If you have thin fabric, like in my case, then it might be that your fabric kind of looks weird, but don't worry about that. It's going to be cool in the end when we do the stitch. So just make sure that you're not pulling on it too much or that it's not getting wrinkled or anything. Just make sure to align the existing stitches and make sure everything is nice and straight. And then all that we need to do is that one stitch that connects the two squares, and we're done. And here you can see the finished project. So this is just an example. You can make this a lot bigger, of course. But what I wanted to show you is that all of the stitches are aligned. You can see more or less. So I'm still learning with you as we go, but with more experience, of course, comes more neatness, so to speak. And yeah, I think it still looks nice. I think it's really interesting and it gives you a lot of freedom to work with different patterns. So I wanted to show you something that I found just as inspiration, what else you can do with regular triangle fabric pieces, triangle shaped fabric pieces. So you can see here we have the one on top looks really cool, the middle one as well, and the bottom one that's kind of like an arrow. And I have some more even. So here, if you use multiple pieces, you can kind of also combine squares and triangles, or have bigger triangles and smaller triangles. So you can see here, it's pretty much all the same thing, triangles and squares. And if you've seen the last or the first patchwork video on my channel, then you already know how to work with squares as well. So yeah, now all that we have to do is continue this, so work on one side and then work on the others as well. So there are, of course, tons of different patchwork styles and projects that you can do. I just kind of wanted to show you what the basics are so that you can continue exploring and find your perfect patchwork idea. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comment section. You can also subscribe and shoot a thumbs up. If you subscribe, don't forget the notification bell. See you next time. Bye!